There is a light bulb burning in a fire station in Livermore, California, right now. It isn't a high-tech LED or some military-grade prototype. It is a hand-blown carbon filament bulb manufactured by the Shelby Electric Company. It was turned on in 1901. It has been burning almost continuously 24 hours a day for 124 years. It has outlived the people who made it, the people who installed it, and probably 3 generations of firefighters who worked under its glow. Now, look at the phone in your hand. Look at the washing machine in your basement. If you are lucky, your phone will last 3 years before the battery gives up or the software updates make it unusable. Your washing machine might make it to 7 years before the control board fries and the repairman tells you it's cheaper to buy a new one than to fix it. We accept this as the normal cycle of technology. We think, well, things are just more complicated now. But that is a lie. The reason your great-grandmother's toaster still works and your 2025 smart fridge is a brick isn't because we forgot how to build things. It's because a group of men in suits met in a room in Geneva 100 years ago and decided to steal your money by engineering failure into the products you buy. My name is Bobby, and I spend way too much time looking at the invisible strings that corporations pull to turn us from owners into consumers. If you are tired of buying the same things over and over again, or if you have ever felt that rage when a product breaks exactly 1 day after the warranty expires, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Because today, we aren't just complaining about bad quality, we are uncovering one of the most successful economic conspiracies in history. We are going to talk about the Phoebus Cartel, the invention of planned obsolescence, and how the economy is literally designed to punish you for wanting things to last. To understand why your iPhone slows down, we have to go back to Christmas time, 1924. Geneva, Switzerland. Top executives from the world's biggest light bulb manufacturers, Osram from Germany, Philips from the Netherlands, and General Electric from the US, gathered for a secret meeting. They had a problem. Their engineers were too good. They had figured out how to make light bulbs that lasted 2,500 hours or more. From a consumer standpoint, this was a miracle. It meant you rarely had to change a bulb. But from a business standpoint, it was a disaster. If you sell a bulb that lasts forever, you sell it once. You saturate the market, and then your revenue goes to zero. It is the ultimate capitalist nightmare, a product so good it destroys the company that makes it. So these companies formed a cartel called Phoebus. Their goal wasn't to improve the product, it was to break it. They signed a formal agreement to artificially limit the lifespan of a light bulb to exactly 1,000 hours. This wasn't just a gentleman's agreement, it was a strictly enforced law. They created a bureaucracy of failure. Manufacturers had to send samples of their bulbs to a central testing laboratory in Switzerland. If a factory produced bulbs that lasted too long, say 1,500 hours, that factory was fined. Think about how twisted that is. Engineers were punished for doing good work. They were forced to re-engineer the filaments, making them inferior, fragile, and prone to burning out faster. And it worked. By the 1940s, the 1,000-hour bulb was the global standard. The cartel eventually dissolved as World War II broke out, but the damage was done. They had proven a concept that would change the world. You could make more money by selling a broken product twice than a perfect product once. They invented the business model of the 20th century, planned obsolescence. But light bulbs were just the beta test. The philosophy spread like a virus. In the 1920s, the car industry was facing a similar crisis. Ford was selling the Model T. It was cheap, reliable, and easy to fix. Once everyone had one, sales flatlined. People just kept fixing their old Model Ts. Enter Alfred Sloan, the head of General Motors. He looked at the Phoebus model and tweaked it. He realized he couldn't just make cars that exploded after 2 years. That was too dangerous and would ruin the brand reputation. So he invented psychological obsolescence, or what he called dynamic obsolescence. He introduced the annual model change. He changed the headlights, the fenders, the colors. He made sure that if you drove a 1923 Chevy in 1925, everyone would know you were driving an old car. He weaponized your ego. He didn't break the machine. He broke your satisfaction with the machine. This is exactly why we have the iPhone 16, 17, and 18. Does the new phone do anything radically different? No, but it has a slightly different camera bump, and that visual signal tells the world you have the new one. That signal is worth billions. Now, fast forward to where we are in late 2025. The game has evolved from physical fragility to digital fragility. We live in the era of software lockouts. Look at what happened with printer cartridges or tractor repair. Companies like John Deere and Apple argued for years that you don't actually own the device you bought, you just own a license to use it. They put digital locks on the hardware so that if you try to replace a battery yourself, or if you use a third-party ink cartridge, the device bricks itself. This is the Phoebus Cartel on steroids. In 1924, they had to physically thin the filament to make it break. Today, they just send a software update that slows down your processor to preserve battery life, conveniently right before the new model launches. They have engineered a world where repair is impossible, not because of physics, but because of code. Consider fast fashion. This is the boots theory applied to your entire wardrobe. A shirt from 1950 was double-stitched, made of thick cotton, and designed to be mended. A shirt from 2025 is often made of a polyester blend that is chemically designed to degrade. The fibers are shorter. The stitching is single thread. It isn't designed to be washed 50 times. It is designed to be washed 5 times. The business model of companies like Shein or Zara relies on the garment falling apart so you come back next week for the new micro-trend. It creates a landfill economy where we treat clothing like paper towels. Here's the thing that makes this an economic trap for you specifically. It creates a replacement tax. Let's do the math. If you buy a pair of boots for $100 that are designed to fall apart in a year, the boots theory we've talked about, you are paying a tax. But if you buy a laptop for $1,000 that is glued shut, has non-replaceable RAM, and a battery that is soldered to the motherboard, you are renting that laptop. When that battery dies in 3 years, the laptop is trash. You have to spend another $1,000. If that laptop had been designed like a ThinkPad from 2005, you could swap the battery for $50 and keep going. That design choice, glue versus screws, cost you $950. Multiply that by your phone, your headphones, your blender, your vacuum. You are bleeding thousands of dollars a decade simply because corporations refuse to let you maintain your own property. And let's talk about the subscription trap, because this is the final evolution of Phoebus. Companies realize that even if they make things break, there's still a gap where you're not paying them. So they stopped selling products and started selling services. BMW tried to charge a monthly subscription for heated seats. Adobe stopped selling you Photoshop and started renting it to you for $50 a month, forever. If you stop paying, you lose access to your own work. This is, you will own nothing and be happy. It guarantees that your wealth is constantly drained, month after month, with no asset to show for it at the end of it. You are on a treadmill of consumption that you can never get off. The most frustrating part? The economy needs this waste to function. Economists call it the paradox of thrift. If we all suddenly bought cast iron pans, safety razors, and Toyota Camrys that lasted 20 years, and we stopped buying new stuff, the GDP would collapse. Factories would close. Stocks would tank. Our entire economic system is built on the velocity of trash. We dig materials out of the ground, turn them into products, sell them to you, and you bury them in a landfill 6 months later. If that cycle slows down, the market crashes. We have built a prosperity that relies on destruction. You are the fuel for that engine. Your wallet is being drained to keep the line on the graph going up. So, is there a way out, or are we just doomed to buy garbage forever? There is a movement growing, and if you want to protect your wealth, you need to join it. It's called the right to repair movement, but personally, I call it the buy it for life philosophy. You have to opt out of the cycle. When you need a vacuum, don't buy the plastic one from the big box store. Buy the commercial grade one that hotels use. It costs twice as much, but lasts 10 times as long. When you buy a laptop, look for the repairability score. If you can't open it with a screwdriver, don't buy it. If the company won't sell you the spare parts, they are scamming you. It requires a shift in mindset. You have to stop viewing new as better. In the world of planned obsolescence, new often just means value engineered. It means they figured out how to use cheaper plastic and thinner metal. Old is often better. There is a reason cast iron pans from 1920 sell for a premium. They were made before the engineers were told to cut corners. You also need to audit your digital life. Reject the subscription model wherever possible. Use open source software. Buy the older car with fewer computer chips. Every time you fix something instead of replacing it, you are committing a small act of rebellion against the Phoebus Cartel. You are keeping your capital in your pocket. The Phoebus Cartel may have dissolved, but its spirit is running the global economy. Every time a hinge breaks on your headphones, every time your phone slows down, every time a handle snaps off your suitcase, remember, that wasn't an accident, it was a design choice. It was a robbery in slow motion. And the only way to stop the robbery is to refuse to buy the junk. Be the person who fixes the toaster. Be the person who drives the 10-year-old car. Be the glitch in their algorithm. If this video made you look at your dying appliances differently, share it with someone who keeps complaining about their phone. We need to wake up to the fact that we are being played. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.